Welcome, guys. We have a interview today with Florian, aka QG. That's Quality Gains. If you haven't seen him on YouTube, make sure to check him out. This man is fit, in shape, and about self-improvement and recognizing when you're not getting the correct information, when the results that you're getting aren't congruent with your goals. That's when you need Quality Gains. So I'd like to welcome Florian to the channel. Florian, thank you for joining us today. How are you doing?
Thank you so much, Joe, for having me. I'm doing great. Thanks. How are you doing?
I'm well. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Why don't you tell people a little bit about who you are if they're not familiar welcome to the Red Pill Vegan channel and just say what's up, tell people who you are and what you do.
So hello, my name is Florian. As Joe told you guys before, I'm running a plant-based online coaching service, QualityGains.com. I help people get into their best shape of their life on a vegan diet. That's my niche that I'm following. And I have my education in the fitness sphere. Right now I'm running 5 fitness centers for one of the biggest fitness chains in Switzerland. And I'm having a cool YouTube channel where I'm publishing 3 times a week videos that are related to vegan and self-improvement. And yes, my name is Florian, as I probably told you like 3 times now, I'm vegan, classic. I follow vegan diet since now about 4 years. Started getting into it by my ex-girlfriend. So I'm also red pill vegan now, so it relates to the channel of Joe. And I started getting into it not for health primarily, although my health was a shit wreck back then. Just eating a lot of animal products and smoking, drinking, all that not so cool stuff. And I was going into the vegan diet actually for reasons of the animals. I read Eating Animals by Jonathan Safran Foer, and it was like one of the only books like back then. It was like the first books that I've read after a really long time. And right now I make sure to read about 1 to 2 books even a week, and this also set off like my self-development journey.
That's pretty impressive, man. I envy that you get a chance to read that much. I wanted to ask you, man, when you say a vegan diet, will you tell people kind of what approach you take in a vegan diet? Do you try to focus on getting whole foods or protein, like protein or carbs, or what's your focus? Do you break it down by macros, or do you do it more where you just focus on whole foods? I'm just kind of curious.
So I actually follow a whole foods plant-based diet, and my diet, like I made a video on my channel, is very, very, very boring. Like, sorry to say this, like every day is literally about the same thing, unless like I'm visiting my family, where they usually cook like not so whole food stuff for me. They usually cook like tofu and pasta. But just in my place, it's usually oatmeal in the morning with some dates, banana, some almonds.
Yeah.
Having some snacks with like bananas again. Right now I'm trying to bulk. So I'm also eating some liquid stuff. I don't know how to say it in English, but it's actually still quite healthy. There's some fiber in it. It's not no artificial sugar. And from lunch, I'm just like, lunch is the same as dinner. It's really very boring stuff. Lunch is usually like brown rice mixed with canned beans, kidney beans, and some spinach or broccoli on top of it. And I'm mixing the brown rice with quinoa or whole wheat pasta.
Okay.
It's quite basic.
Well, it sounds like what you're doing is you basically taking control of the production of your food, not like growing it and stuff, but actually cooking it and preparing it in a way where you're comfortable enough knowing what you eat, that if you eat the same basic meals and swapping out certain sides and certain starches and certain base foods, that when you eat that way, you know that you're going to feel good and you're going to get the results that you want in the gym, and that's going to translate into you being a healthy person.
I also feel crappy if sometimes I have really stressful weeks and I start to eat like those quick lunches that you can buy in a supermarket, and I just like buy them, and within like 5 minutes I eat them in a rush and just go to the next place. And I just feel like that after like 1 week full of eating those trashes in the supermarket, I feel like shit. I'm not sure if this is because like the thing that I'm eating is shit. Yes, it contains salt, probably like some sugar in it, a lot of conservative chemicals. But it's also, I think, because I I I'm looking for the feeling of self-mastery. Oops, I got an email right here. I'm looking for the sorry, I'm looking for I'm looking for the sense of self-mastery. And I think that's what like cooking my own stuff and just like being in control of my food really gives me, like a sense of self-mastery and being happy and in what you're doing and thinking that you have control over your life.
Yeah, I understand that, man. And I think what you're hitting on is really a growing trend in even the mainstream. I'm not talking about just the vegan community, is that more and more people are trying to take control of their health, and they recognize that doing their own meal prep is, I mean, basically the most surefire way to handle and manage what you're getting in as your fuel.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about this a little bit at the end of part 1 of this interview, which is going to be posted on Florian's channel, QualityGains. But we started touching on this a little bit, how when people make the conscious choice to get healthy, that's really one of the first things that the foot in the door is, you know, you're going to start having to learn how to cook and prepare your own meals. And for people in my audience that don't know this, I do a lot of meal prep. I'm a big fan of the Instant Pot. I use a rice cooker. I also eat some smoothies, but not every day. Things like oatmeal, you can cook them overnight or do overnight oats, or you can cook them in the morning. There's a lot of ways to do meal prep so that it cuts down the time that you actually have to spend in the kitchen. And then you end up with the ability to control your diet, which gives you that mastery, that self-control and that mastery to get the nutrition that you need without, like you said, if you eat out, you can end up in America at Chipotle, you might get 4 grams of sodium if you sit down and have a burrito and some sofritas, you know?
Yeah, for sure. It's the same in Switzerland. So, yeah, and I can double down on the rice cooker and just everything what you say now is like fully correct. And I remember like I couldn't cook at all. I remember like my mother was telling me, because my ex-girlfriend wanted to like move in with me when I was just late teens. And my mother was like, well, before you move in with a girl, you have to like cook and do all the basic stuff that I'm now capable of doing. And it was funny, like in Switzerland, you need to cook in school. Like I had a class which taught me how to cook. And I was always like, I passed the class, but I almost failed it. I was the worst one at cooking in my whole class. And no one, like you had like teams of 4 to 5 people that cooked together, like you made a meal, and afterwards it was like 2 hours, 2 hours, I think. And afterwards, like you ate it together, and no one wanted to be in my team because I'm so bad at cooking. I'm so bad at cooking. And one time, I think like back then in my non-vegan days, I was cooking like an egg, and somehow I managed like that the pot fell out of my hand, and it went on the floor, and like all the eggs were down, and I was like, okay. as they needed another reason to not have me in their team, so.
Well, it just goes to show, man, that it doesn't matter if you start at a place where you don't know how to cook at all. You can obtain, with just a little bit of practice and some good equipment in the kitchen, like a rice cooker and Instant Pot, basically with no training at all, you can basically graduate to a level where now you're managing your food with meal prep. And it's not something that takes up all of your daytime, and you don't think, honestly, I don't know about you, but I don't even think about it that much anymore. Like I'm kind of on autopilot. Like you described it as the food being boring, but really what I think you mean is that it's just almost like you got to a point where you know what you're going to do, you knock it out, and you don't even think about it, you know?
It's second nature.
Yeah.
That's just what I'm doing. It's always like when people are asking me, like, Florian, is it hard following a vegan diet? I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I've been doing this now for 4 years, and it's second nature. I know what I'm eating. I know what I can't eat, and it's easy. It's easy. But like, obviously, there's a part of you getting accustomed to a new life circumstance. But after some time, it's easy. It's easy. Yep. Sorry.
One of the things that we were touching on a little bit in part 1 is a theme that I've seen starting to develop on your channel, which is that if you want to get the results that are congruent with your goals, that you have to get advice from the right people. And if you're taking advice from the wrong people, then your results aren't going to match up with what your goals are. And so one of the things that we kind of touched on is how once you make that conscious choice that you want to be better, that you want to improve yourself, and as a man, but you and I would both acknowledge that lifting is not optional. But when it comes to the food side of it, yeah, exactly. When it comes to the food side of it, though, what we see is that once you make that choice, then you're basically in the Wild West when it comes to, you go online, how do you get a ripped six pack? And the first few results are probably going to be people telling you to start fasting, maybe dramatically change the macronutrient ratio of your diet into something that's way outside the norms of what long living, healthy civilizations and populations have eaten for centuries. And so it's one of the things I want to ask you is, how do you deal with clients or people who come to the channel and contribute when they're confused about health, or maybe they've adopted some tenets about carbohydrates or some of the narratives about healthy eating that don't match up with your approach or the way that you would recommend that people get in the best shape that they can? How would you handle that? How do you kind of wake people up to once they've kind of taken the, I don't want to say the blue pill, so to speak, but once they've adopted the idea that maybe like grass-fed beef is the way to greater health, how do you show them like, hey man, I eat this way and I'm really healthy and it works great and carbohydrates aren't bad for you? How do you wake people up about that kind of thing?
Like the classic thing that I say to clients is, this is my way of doing it, and just try it. Give it 2-3 weeks. Try it. Like, I believe in that stuff. Okay. And if you want to work together, you have to try at least try out what I'm suggesting you. I remember one time, and I like fitness and veganism. They also have like probably the same thing as it is with business, because I had like a mentor of mine. I had like a really bad logo back then, just about 3 years ago, when I was starting out with this online coaching stuff, and like two and a half years ago. And he taught me like, dude, your logo really sucks. Your website sucks. And I was standing there, I was nearly crying, because I'm like, fuck, I did this myself. This is so amazing.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, this is not your logo. And the first thing that I did was like, I was getting really offensive. Like, okay, is this guy trying to hurt me now, or like mentally? Is this guy trying to fuck me up? But then he told me that, hey, look, I'm trying to help you here. You can try out, like, I can make a new logo for you, and you can see if it's better or not. But that what you right now are having is not your logo, and you will realize that in the future. And just like this really stuck with me. And he told me, hey, look, I have no ulterior motives. I'm just giving you my opinion about what you're doing right now, and it is now working. That's also classic. Like when a client is asking me and telling me how they're doing, or like what they're doing, and I'm just asking them, okay, how did that work out for you? How did that work out for you? If your decision was so great of like following this low carb or no carb diet, then why aren't you seeing results? And it's funny, the first results that I've seen with my six pack are like the first time I got a six pack when I was like switching from my heavy meat diet to a vegan diet. I was in the vegetarian phase. It's like the first time I've seen a six pack. And remember, well, this was about 5-6 years ago. I had like this guy, like, which was a good friend of mine. He told me, like, I was always trying to get a six pack, like since about 10 years. And only like 5 years or 6 years afterwards, I achieved it. And remember, he was telling me, you don't have a six pack. You have a 2-pack or like a 1-pack that I had. Like you could see like the 2 upper packs just below the chest. And he told me, you just need to be satisfied with that. You will never have a six pack in your life. Because the funny thing was, like, he was naturally skinny and he had a six pack. He told me, okay, you will not have a six pack in your life. You just need to accept it. I was like, no, I will not accept it. And the first time I went on a vegetarian diet was actually when I saw a six pack.
So you started seeing results when you went more towards a plant-based lifestyle.
Especially with body fat reduction. Like, I would lie if I would tell you that I didn't see results beforehand. Like, it was like before, it was like a really massive, probably as massive as I'm right now. It's a different angle, so you probably can't appreciate the gains here. I'm standing on the standing desk. So I was still massive, but I had no results when it comes to losing body fat. It was just impossible. And low carb didn't do it for me. No carb didn't do it for me. I was actually stuck in what I did.
Well, let's touch a little bit on within kind of the men's fitness community, and I speak mostly to a male audience, but I appreciate all the ladies that tune in as well, you know. But when it comes to the men's fitness community, I think you and I could probably both take a step back and say, one, there is a certain affinity towards higher meat diets because inherently now we know, especially with the upcoming release of the Game Changers, that people are talking more about the connection between the perception of eating a high meat diet and masculinity, and how maybe those two things don't necessarily equate in the way that maybe the mainstream advertisers want you to think that they do. Right. And so I guess the way I would go to this is that we would say that within the men's fitness community, we see that affinity for high meat diets, but we also see kind of this hypercritical position towards plant-based diets and vegan diets where a lot of guys are skeptical about it. And I think that's one of the barriers to people really getting results on a plant-based diet the way that you've seen it and that I've seen it to a lesser extent. I mean, I'm not trying to be somebody that I'm not. I'm obviously only a novice lifter. And so I don't have the full experience to say, hey, this is how you can get to be intermediate or advanced or, you know, hit a 505 deadlift. Like, I'm not there, but I can learn from people who are further advanced than me. And that's one of the things that's great about shared experience is I'm seeing now more plant-based fitness personalities coming forward. And like guys like you, guys like Alex at Alpha Destiny, who I would say is if he's not advanced, he's very high intermediate lifter, probably advanced. And so we're seeing guys who are doing plant-based now. And then I'm not even getting into like the bigger vegan name community guys like John Venus, Derek Simnett, you know, and Nehemiah Delgado, and then, you know, then all the endurance athletes. We're just seeing it come in from a broader spectrum now where people are kind of proving the point that, hey, this whole critical attitude towards the vegan diet in a men's fitness community, you know, we need to put that behind us. And this whole affinity towards meat, it really doesn't add up in terms of masculinity. It doesn't define, you know, your Johnson and your Twig and berries aren't defined by how much meat you eat. You know what I'm saying? It's not how it works.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's one of the biggest hindering blocks of veganism when it comes to like just men trying out the nutrition their way, because they're afraid of getting labeled as the soy boy or like the guy with displaying female behavior. And this is just really sad in my opinion, because like this increased form of compassion or this increased form of empathy is getting linked with being a soy boy. Like I think this is the way that our like Homo sapiens should go to. Like it's to like a way of having more compassion in your day-to-day life. Like, for example, if you took a look at how we abandoned having slaves, like we just like what Abraham Lincoln did, and I'm pretty sure like the people labeled Abraham Lincoln as soy boy just because he had like more empathy than the other guys.
Classic. I've never heard that one before.
Yeah, but I think that's how it was, and I think we shouldn't see masculinity as having no empathy, because if we take a look at the science of like alpha males in chimpanzee, like there's a good book, Chimpanzee Politics. Actually, like the leaders of a group have the most empathy because they want to make sure that they have the support in the group. And it's a great TED talk from the author of the book Chimpanzee Politics. And it's funny. The alpha guy in the group has more empathy than even the female ones, because he knows that he needs to take especially sure of the support that he's getting. And that's also, by the way, my leadership. Like right now I have like 40 people under me, like in the 5 fitness centers that I manage. And you have to show empathy. Nobody likes a jerk boss. So you have to show them that you care about them.
That's the truth, man. I mean, I've noticed that I've kind of shifted into a new gear into some of the people that I admire, and a lot of the men that I admire now, I find uh, really exemplify things like being humble and really being open to new experiences. Like, I mean, I was talking about this because John Wick 3 came out recently, and Keanu Reeves is in it. Dude,
Yeah.
the more I looked into him, I was like, I have more respect for this guy than so many other big Hollywood names. One, he's a boss with firearms. Like, he is proficient with firearms and self defense in terms of martial arts. And at
Mhm.
the same time, like, he's the kind of guy on the set who would want, like you said, with all the people that work for you, he's the guy on the set who wants to get to know the names of all the guys who do the light crew, and
Mhm.
he's asking the people at the lunch, like, hey, is this stuff on the table? Is it any good? If it's not any good, he might order some pizzas or something just to make everybody happy out of his own pocket. And he's
Mhm.
just a humble guy. And I realized, like, man, I don't think that he's vegan, but that's, again, not, it's not what defines you in every way. It's about how you carry yourself and how you respect people around you, and that's a big deal, man. Especially for, really, like you said, when you're talking about real alphas,
Mhm.
they don't have to prove anything about the way they eat or necessarily how much bravado they have. You know, that stuff comes naturally when you're doing it right, and people are going to see your character and stand up for that. That's another thing I noticed on your channel, man, is that
Mhm.
you talked about the importance of reputation and the importance of being true to what you believe in, and not pushing products or stuff that's you're doing for, like, I don't know if you've seen this, man. I'm gonna keep it real with you right now. In the low carb sphere, I've been seeing these people selling these light bulbs or these light arrays that they put red light on you. And I clicked on the link one time, man, after watching a live stream on some guy's channel, and it was like a $3,000 light bulb. It was like a $3,000 light bulb, and they've got affiliate links set up to do that. And I'm like,
Yeah.
look, man, right? I haven't researched it enough to say that it's no good, but man, I know a lot of things that a young man can do with $3,000 to put himself in a good position to grow and build a
Mhm.
business, or take care of himself with health. And I'm telling you, man, a $3,000 or $5,000 red light bulb is probably not the first step, you know?
It for sure isn't. It for sure isn't. And I've of course I run my own online coaching service plan at QualityGains.com, but I also have like 10 affiliate products on my website, which is like 10 videos out of like the 200 plus that I've published. And I always run the little brother test, which is if my little brother, like my family's watching my videos, and if my little brother, for example, will buy my products that I'm pushing on the YouTube clips, how would I react? Would I be like, okay, great decision? Or would I be like, okay, you stupid fuck, I was just trying to make some money? And if it's the second one, then I know that I shouldn't do it. So I call this a little brother test, and I always do this when I'm pitching the products, my videos.
People call it the American dream. I don't fault people just for trying to make a buck. And I think that this is what the great thing about the internet is. It gives us access to an audience of people who want to learn. And so there's things out there that we can learn about and can improve our lives. And there's nothing wrong with sharing those and making some money doing it. But what I see like I said, I've only just started to get to know you and your content and your product and what you offer. But what I see integrity, man. I see somebody who is standing up for something that he believes in, something that can get people results. And at the same time, it's also in line with, good stewardship of the environment, a little bit of compassion towards animals, and a
Mm.
lot of the things that really within the vegan community we find to be, tenets that create value. It's the type of thing that brings people together, and we're able to talk about and share that experience. And so that's one of the things I'm glad to give you a chance to have on the Red Pill Vegan channel. I think you definitely have exemplify some of the
Mm.
aspects of both being red pill and a vegan man, and that's two things that when you put them together, it's really a dangerous combination, man, because it's a level of an awareness and an ability to get results that most people aren't yet tapping into. And so if they want to tap into that type of results, why don't you tell them where they can find you, man?
Thanks so much, Joe. I can give all this back to you. You can find me on my YouTube channel, obviously, Quality Gains. It's quality and gains. There's 2 words. And you can also, if you're interested in me being your coach, if you're following a vegan diet, you can go to QualityGains.com. We have 10 coaching spots per month. You can sign up there. You can write me an email at info@qualitygains.com. But probably the best way to reach me out is just by either my website or my YouTube channel. And I hope you put them in the description or something where they can find you.
Absolutely, man. I will go ahead and put a link in the description to this video to get to Quality Gains Channel. And I'll tell you what, Florian, if you post a comment on this video, I'll pin it so people can find you like that too. So it'll be at the top. And I would encourage everybody in my audience, if you haven't already, make sure you make your way over to Quality Gains and hit that subscribe button, and make sure you hit that notification bell, because this man is dropping 3 videos a week. He's really doing it, y'all, and he's putting it out in a way that it's digestible. He's not coming with these 3.5-hour live streams like you might see on some other fitness channels. You know, he keeps it. He values your time, and he's going to bring you the message that he wants to share. So I definitely hope you guys will go over there and subscribe. And I want to say thank you guys all for tuning in. And make sure to check out part 1 of this interview if you haven't already. It's going to be over there on Quality Gains Channel. Florian, you have anything else you want to say before we close it out, man?
I think you closed it out very nicely, man. I have to be aware of not blushing here, but thanks so much for the nice words, and always good to be of service.
Yeah, man. And hopefully we'll get a chance to do something like this another time too.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
All right, guys. Y'all know what time it is. Red Pill Vegan. Next. Yeah, man. That was